Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Brian Grogan, and like the others, I'd like to thank the sponsors and organizers and the people who have put in the hard work to make this afternoon possible. I've been asked to speak to you today about the humanitarian challenge, so I'm going to try to do two things in explaining that. One, help you to understand what exactly this challenge is, go into a little bit of detail on that, and two, to persuade you that we have before us an opportunity to make a difference in actually resolving this challenge that has been with us for many years. I've been in the humanitarian business about 15 years. I've traveled many places. I've worked in Yugoslavia, Burundi, East Timor, Haiti, Sierra Leone. But I was realizing as I was getting on the plane out here that I'd never actually been to California. So I began to think of what does California mean to me as a proud New Englander. You know, California is the place where I lose many of my friends. They come out here, they love it. They tell me the weather is great, the style of life is great, it's far less stressful, and it's a place where imagination, ambition, creativity flow freely. It's not the meat grinder of the East Coast. So I had this very much in mind. But I'm here today to talk to you about another world, if you will. If you were to take all the people that we're trying to help this year through our humanitarian appeals and put them in one country, that country would be the 11th largest country on earth. It would be a country very, very different from the California that I was imagining coming out here. Frankly, it's not a country any of us would want to live in. It's certainly not a country I would want to try to raise my children in. I'm asking you to imagine yourself as a citizen of this country. It's a country where no one feels safe. People do not have decent shelter. The structure you live in will be largely improvised, some with bits that you got from the international aid community, others other parts of your shelter for yourself and your family will be things that you could take from your environment. You and your family will not have adequate food. You will be dependent on outsiders or neighbors to help you make ends meet. As much as you would want to be able to work and help your family, economic opportunities are few and far between. And all of your neighbors are also looking for them, also wishing that they had these opportunities. You and your neighbors will have a lot in common in that you will be afraid for yourselves and for your children. You will come to the understanding that this war or cyclone or earthquake that has uprooted you and completely changed your way of living is not going to go away anytime soon. As someone mentioned earlier, the average length of time a person spends displaced by their home by conflict is 17 years. Once the UN starts up an operation, a humanitarian operation in your country, we're more likely to be there for 7 years than we are to be there for 1 year. On average, we're in a country for 7 years with a major humanitarian operation. So this country that I'm asking you to imagine is one where the living is difficult and the prospects are not good. So when you imagine yourself talking to your neighbors in this country, you're looking for help, you're looking for solutions, you're looking for change. And this is the situation we in the international community now are facing. Sorry for that. You can see that the demand over the last 10 years, the amount requested has shot nearly straight up. The number of people we're trying to help has doubled. So the population of this country, I'm asking you to imagine, has doubled in the past 10 years. The amount of money we're asking for has increased between 500 and 600% because the needs are so great. You can see the gap between the amount of funding that we're receiving and the amount that we're asking for is growing. The gap this year is $9 billion, which is triple the amount it was just 5 years ago. So that is a growing gap that I don't want you to think of in terms of dollars, but I want you to think of in terms of it's less food, it's less supplies, it's less help, it's less hope for the people of this country of some 125 million people. So we face a serious problem both in terms of economic resources and that the agencies and NGOs and organizations that are out there simply don't have the capacity to help so many people in so many places at the same time. So what I'm describing here is already a big problem, but the news doesn't stop there. The prospects are that it's not going to get better anytime soon. Many of the major conflicts we see today have no real prospects for peace in the short term. The negotiations are very intense now around Syria, but nobody's expecting a silver bullet to solve the problem there anytime soon. Even if the war ends, the effects will go on for years and years. South Sudan remains in a stalemate, millions of people affected. Burundi could go one way or the other, and we haven't had a natural disaster, a major natural disaster until Fiji just last week. So things could be pretty bad, and then you add on top of that the effects of climate change, El Nino, and it's more likely that millions more people will join you in this very unfortunate country than not. So what I've painted here is a fairly gloomy picture. But my favorite statistic out of all of this is the number one. And this is where I'm trying to persuade you that this is our opportunity. We have one planet, which, like it or not sometimes, we do all share. So what I am challenging myself and the fellow panelists to do is to imagine ways where we can bring this idea of the California of my dreams, of a place of imagination and ambition and endless creativity. How can that world help this other country that I'm talking about? How can we bridge the divide there and bring the solutions that are in front of us to the people who really need them most? There's a few ways that we're suggesting to do that, but I'm just going to list a couple of them. The very obvious answer, to go back to the graph, was that we have to not just meet the demand that is there, but we have to drive it down over time. So we need to find ways to work more efficiently with the resources we have, while we're also doing things to address the conflicts themselves, to resolve the underlying issues that are there that make communities vulnerable to natural disasters. And to actually get at solving the problems. So we're not just helping people to stay alive, but we're helping them to move on and to make progress. As I begin to conclude, again, this is a unique moment. We have coming up before us in the United Nations a change of Secretaries General. Our current Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, has just come out with his report for our World Humanitarian Summit, which is entitled One Humanity, Shared Responsibility. And this is really the essence of what we're trying to push for. It's a combination of better efficiency and more solutions for the people that we're trying to serve collectively. And I emphasize collectively because we, in the humanitarian community, who traditionally have been pretty insular, we realize we don't have all the solutions. We don't have many of the solutions. So we need to reach out to people that are solution-oriented, creative, help us find ways to help people individual by individual, community by community, so that we can drive down that number over time. And again, the statistic I want to leave you all with is this one. It's one world, it's one humanity. We share the responsibility to come up with solutions. Thank you.